Hello, everyone out there in internet land. Welcome to the fifth episode. No, excuse me, the second episode of the fifth season. There we go. The second episode of the fifth season of Second Sons. As always, I am Roy Rogers of the Philadelphia Meta, and I am joined by Aaron Glazer, who, since we are back to normal, does not get to speak during this segment. And then I am joined by two of my illustrious co-hosts as well. Buzz Aldrin, how you doing today, Buzz?
I'm great. I might be playing WoW Classic right now.
Might be.
Me too.
Who knows?
I have 2 minutes
wow.
to do.
It is always 19 what? When did
2004.
2004?
Yeah.
So
I have
it's
you
always 2004 somewhere.
above my character. I have your face right now, so it's
Oh, that makes me happy.
What server are you on, Buzz?
Janus.
Oh, okay.
I watched some people stream WoW Classic today, and it made me wonder
Not at all
why I
nostalgic.
ever played WoW and why somebody would play WoW in 2019.
Yeah, I never played Classic actually. I do play retail. If I didn't have a subscription, I wouldn't try it out. But a lot of my friends are playing now, so I'm playing with them.
Can you log off so I can log in, please?
And that other voice, that other WoW Classic player we have here is Sandy, the most famous man and beloved man in Thrones, Barnabas. How you doing today, Sandy?
Now uncontested.
Oh,
I'm doing pretty
Soon.
well. I just wrapped up my my other project, my side project, Missing the Cut, where we talked about Thronstoberfest, which is, I think, in your home city, Roy.
it is my home city. I am the host of it, so it is something I'm intimately aware of. So I guess we'll just start off there. I just want to say real quick, we're rapidly approaching the deadline for signing up for Thronstoberfest. The deadline is September 6th. Today we did a big announcement for what our alt art card is, which is a copy of Heir to the Iron Throne featuring Philadelphia icon Gritty. This is the only way to get this card. It is original art that I commissioned, just like last year's Declaration of Independence art. I think it's super fucking cool. And it's the only way to get it. Everyone who signs up will get a copy, and then anyone who finishes X2 in day one, who makes day two, will get a foil copy, which is similar to what we did last year with the Declaration of Independence art that we did. And then we also announced that we're going to be doing foil copies of an older card that we did, a Clash of Kings featuring Robert Baratheon versus the Boar. So just for signing up, you get 2 alt art cards, 1 foil, 1 with badass art, and plus a bunch of other stuff that we're going to be announcing in the next week or so. But there's more of prize support I would like to announce, but we need more people to sign up. So the more people that we get, the more that I can up the prize support, and I'm pretty excited by that. So please check the Next Facebook page, check the community groups. You can find the tickets. You can go to redcapscorner.com to find tickets, and you should definitely sign up immediately. We have a great list of Regents plus Glazer this year, and so it should be really fantastic. So please sign up for Thronstoberfest. Other big important big things to congratulate people. Congratulations to Euros, which was
the continent as a whole.
Continent, the event is what I meant. Which
we're finally getting rid of Britain.
Too
Wow.
real, man. Too real. So Euros is a topic that I want to talk about the positives first a little bit. So congratulations. The winner was
Axel Gomez.
Axel Gomez. Congratulations, playing. He was playing Nico's deck, right?
No. He was playing Barra Summer.
Oh, Barra Summer, right? I couldn't remember if it was the Greyjoy or the Barra. Excuse me. So the Barra won. So that's 2 weekends in a row that a big prestigious tournament has been won by Barra.
How's
The
this
other
going to
one
affect
was-
draft prices?
Well, the other one was Hanno, as usual, winning German Nats with Barra cohort.
Yep. Which was also Barra versus Greyjoy. No, that was Targ, right? Was Targ in
That was Targ. He played against the Targ Hollow Hill, but everyone's now playing.
And yeah, so that Euros was a really cool event. It will probably end up being the largest official FFG event of the year. Well over
160 people, I think.
Yeah.
165.
But we can't be the Second Sons without throwing at least some shade FFG OP's way. they did fuck up hard the first 3 rounds before they changed it to X2 cut, right? Originally, they announced that it was going to be 5 rounds with an X1 cut.
6.
Was it 6?
6 with X1, then it became 7 with X2.
6 with X1, which made it harder to make day 2 than a Magic Grand Prix with like 3 times the people attending. Yeah, they fucked up real bad. But to FFG's credit, they did change their mind to a third of the way to a half a way through the tournament, where they added that additional round and made it an X2 much fairer cut. So while we appreciate FFG's willingness to listen to the feedback, and I'm not just saying that because I'm the one who started the thread on the Facebook group telling them they should change it.
They actually said due to overwhelming feedback. That was
so
in Roy's life he's been
it's not my personal we did it Reddit moment in life. I'm not just piping this because of this, but just the feedback given to mostly the people IRL, but also online, to just make it clear to FFGOP that we really want them to be able to run their event in any way, in a way that is like going to be the most competitively viable. And when they're not doing it that way, their willingness to change was a really good sign. So we really appreciate that. We just wish that FFGOP would just simply do it from the beginning and just save us all the angst. But we definitely appreciate their willingness to course correct.
Do we?
I do.
I think. I think when they started like that, they fucked up either way. But changing halfway through just shows that they are completely incompetent. Because you just don't do it ever.
Fair. I mean, it's two perspectives, right? Like, would you rather play in the event that's run properly, even if it gets changed halfway through, or because you agreed, or because you announced this one thing and it was terrible, that you're then obligated to follow it through? Like, I'd rather play in it, even if you change the rules halfway through, if it's a better tournament for everyone involved, I'd rather have that happen than stick by what you announced at the beginning. But I mean, it's a perfectly valid thing to believe that they should stick with what they announced.
I'm not saying they're incompetent either way.
Well, it's true. They are incompetent. Well, sure. They're incompetent either way. It's fine with me. Extra congratulations as well to Derek Shoemaker, friend of the show, for winning Lord of the Crossing 2 out here in the Northeast Championship Tour for the largest tour stop of the year, which is amazing. He won with Stark Crossing. He beat Drowned God in the finals. It has an amazing stream.
Time out. Lances win again.
Yeah, another win for the Lances. But it should have been in a different context because, first off, Mike Lamsick always runs an amazing event, so do the South Jersey people. And Mike always runs the best stream. And the thing I love most about the streams that Mike runs is they're very educational. And one of the things I learned by a bunch of messages while I was at the bar was that Ambush is not turned off by Winterfell. So by watching the Lord of the Crossing stream, you too can learn that Ambush is not turned off by Winterfell. Right, Sandy?
Yes. And I mean, to Chris Vack's credit, he was incredibly apologetic. Head judge Chris Vack. He was incredibly apologetic about that after the fact. But it definitely, I don't think it changed the eventual outcome of the game. I was really far behind, but that was a nail in the coffin for me.
Could you say that you ambushed Vack with that feedback? But yes, it was a great event. Honest to goodness, it's honestly, besides Fit Saturday itself, the highlight of the tour every year. And all the Jersey guys did a fantastic job putting that event together. I'm super amazed with my Rainbow Guard power tokens. So just fantastic event. And then the other thing is, of course, another friend of the show, Sean Emberley, who we'll be talking about in a little bit as well, is Canadian national champion. The Lobster, another hashtag, another win for the Lances. Is Canadian national champion. I know it means a lot to the Lobster to finally be able to like represent his country. He before made the finals and punted in a Lanny Dragon mirror a couple years ago, and like I know the redemption means a lot to him, and I'm very proud of him. And we'll talk a little bit more about Sean in a little bit. Am I missing any other major tournaments? So those, I think, are all the 30-plus person tournaments that, well, actually, technically Canadian Nationals wasn't 30-plus people, but
How many people was it?
23, I think.
That's hilarious.
I mean, look, I love Mike Lamzik. I love the Northeast Championship Tour. I helped found it. But if they had announced Canadian Nationals with more than like a month notice, I would have been at Canadian Nationals.
I mean,
But
and that was
announcing a
this was
tournament a month in advance that's a major tournament is like hard for people to make it up who aren't
Also think-
Canadians.
Yeah. I mean, that was a busy weekend, both Thrones, like card games in general. There was a Magic GP and
But
Euros all on the same weekend. Yeah.
There was Euros, GP Vegas, Canadian Nationals, and Lord of the Crossing all in one weekend. So
It was a real tough weekend for me to decide where to go.
yeah, but yeah. So I think that covers all the major tournaments since our last episode. But congratulations to CT, of course, for being King of Swiss, and a friend of the show, Alexander Hines, of course, also very good friend of the show, well beloved on this show, Alexander Hines, making the finals and being defeated by Sean Emberley. All right, so that basically clears the deck. I think that covers all the tournaments. We'll get into some future announcements like we always do in our Rambly ending. But Glazer, you've been working on a project.
Wait, time out. Before we do this, as I introduce the project, you're going to post in the Second Sentence chat right now the link to sign up for Thronetoberfest.
I can do that. Just give me 1 second.
I know. All right. So the project I've been working on is I thought it would be cool, and I said this last time, but Roy never posted the episode. So since Roy didn't
Whoa,
post the episode,
Buzz
I'm
never
going to go
gave me
through.
the episode, so I'm just
Okay.
saying.
All right. So
Let's not.
Who knows what happens?
We may never know whose fault it was.
So one of our co-hosts needs to get on that. But I decided it would be cool to do a top 10 players in North America and a top 10 players in the world. Top 10 players in North America, top 10 players in Europe. I'm aware there are other areas that play Thrones, but I don't know anyone but LGB that plays there. So those are the two areas I settled on. After a few minutes of thinking and struggling mightily to cut down to 10 because there's a lot of really great Thrones players, I decided to do a top 16. And then after realizing that 16 meant we could do a cut, we decided to do the Second Sons Elite Invitational. So we'll be announcing the members of the top 16 players in North America who have all agreed to participate in this online tournament, and the top 16 players in Europe. 14 of whom have agreed to participate in this online tournament, and I've got to get in touch with the other two. It's a little
We're
bit
going to
hard
name and
contact
shame those two
Europeans.
that need to
Yeah, well, let's hope they participate.
name and
because if not,
celebrate,
this-
I guess, is what we'll do here.
If not, I'm going to feel really terrible. So here we are. So without further ado, do you guys want to start with North America or Europe?
Let's start with North America,
Okay.
because I'll be pretty
these-
drunk by the time we get to Europe, and I have the least to say. So
These are in no particular order, but the first North American that I'm announcing is Jim Hansen. We're not clapping for everyone.
We're not clapping.
I'm going to give the basic stat rundown for Jim for each player, and then you guys can talk about them for a moment. So Jim has a 71 win percentage, one of the 2 or 3 best in North America. He plays everything but mostly Tyrell, and he's most famous for innovative Russian crossing decks. He is of the Chicago's meta, and I don't even know if he's a mummer anymore, but he
I believe he
was
is.
is a mummer of some kind.
Like,
I mean, I think-
let's be clear, we're talking about a build group. He's not an actor by trade. I think he's a civil engineer.
The Mummers, Alex Black, CT, Jess Thompson. I know that they parted ways with the GTA people, so I think it's like mostly that like core group of Alex and CT and Jess, and Jim and such. But Chicago is of course his home, and like Jim is just one of the more interesting deck builders. I mean, besides being a really nice guy, Jim is one of the most interesting deck builders in America in 2.0, right? Like his Targ Rose deck that he lost to Seth in at U.S. Nationals 2 years ago. Yeah, 2 years ago was just very innovative. It like pushed a whole archetype in what felt like was a very settled meta. In the same way, right? Like his Worlds deck from that year was very innovative. He was a very innovative version of Targ Rush. He pioneered like aggressive Night's Watch decks. Like Jim, almost always what Jim is playing is interesting, and he manages to make it interesting but also competitive. And there are very few deck builders in North America that are capable of doing that. He's really the Hano of North America, to be honest.
Yeah, I had the exact same thought. He's very comparable to Hano.
Yeah, and we'll get to Hano later. So, but I always admire Jim's
spoiler
decks.
alert.
Always very well constructed. Like he's definitely like. I mean, a lot of this comes from Lance's perspective. Like when Jim publishes a list, we're immediately tearing it apart and looking at like how it works and what we could take from it. So it's very, very, very good deck builder and a great player and a nice dude. So.
Yeah, he's great. I hung out with him in Seattle a few times when I was up there for work. I remember he played like some Bara Faith deck versus me, and I'm like, who's playing? This was before Bara was even, I don't know. Just a very, like, always has good ideas, doesn't really make play mistakes. Yeah.
Clean. Yeah.
71% in North America is really.
And he goes to events. Like Jim's not, a sit at home kind of 1 or 2 event a year kind of guy. So
It is tied for the second highest on the list in North America.
we'll get to that guy in a second. While actually.
Next up is Nick Hansen. Figured why not keep the Hansens together. Nick is a 65 win percentage. He plays mostly Night's Watch, but lately a fair amount of Bara.
Yeah, and Martel. He played a lot of Martel back in the day.
Yeah, sure. I think, okay. Famous largely for New Wall and naveling the shit out of everyone. And he won last year's Thrones War, and he is of the Wasa meta.
It was 2 years ago's Stone War, right?
Yeah, last year was.
Sorry, yeah. I was going to call that this year and the other one last year, but whatever, sure. Mira won this year. Nick won last year. Yes.
Why do I feel
Verbally
like there's a
accurate?
champion between Mira and Nick, or it feels longer?
It just feels that way. Yeah.
It just feels that way. Okay, yeah. Yeah, I mean, Nick is in many ways like the big second generation Wausau player. Like with Kid and Sam kind of making up that like first generation like Wausau. A lot of the other Wisconsin guys from DC, but really to me, like Kid and Sam stand out as like that first generation of people, and then Nick is kind of the standard bearer of the new generation of Wausau folks, that have degens like Platt and Chase. But like Nick is the most consistent of that group. He, I think, is committed to the game in a way that the other two aren't. He is just a really strong, really consistent player, and I think what I kind of like the ways in which Nick approaches the metagame. That I've always found really admirable, that he kind of like has a specific set of strategies that he's always trying to maximize. And they're often the classic Wausau ways, which are either like degen, Night's Watch, steal your stuff kind of ways, or attrition-y, a million claim ways, because that's how he won Gen Con was with, not Gen Con, excuse me, Thrones War was with the Martel Rose, right? The super claim Martel Rose, which he played very well. I mean, you can go back and listen to the commentary that Sam made of that and said that Nick played for garbage. But us pure plebs believe that Nick played that game extremely well. And so I find Nick to be a very admirable player that you can learn these kind of more niche strategies. Like he's very similar to his fellow Hansen, right? Like they both tend to play more niche strategies, but they tend to do it in a way that is like really, really focused on doing it in the most competitive way. That I think a lot of people, if you're interested in playing different kinds of competitive decks, the Hansens in general are the two gentlemen you want to look at.
I mean, Nick Hansen, and Wausau players, they love bad decks. They really do. They hate playing the best stuff, and they love playing odd combos, cool interactions, attrition, etc.
I think
what I think is best about Nick Hansen is that when he sits down and play with the bad deck, he plays really tight.
Yeah.
Yep. Agreed.
I think that's just a trait of Wausau players, like you said. I mean, if you remember Sam Baratz's performance in War, where he was king of Swiss, and like no other Stark player made the cut. Was that?
No. No other Stark player had a winning record.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
And on that team were me, Johnny Wright, Dustin Archer,
Yeah, it was
and John Bruno.
like
It was a bad year for white cards. That was very bad.
well, unless you're a Wausau player and you're like, oh, you know what card is good? This like sacrifice a character or location bullshit. Or was that the Direwolf? I don't know.
It was a
The
direwolf
Direwolf.
and both. He was running the
Yeah,
event,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pupperines.
So-
But I
Paparino.
think Nick is a true Wausau player in that sense of like he gets differential. He looks for the cards that give him differential advantage, and that is the naval, like whatever cards like that, and it shows in his deck building. Like you said, it's bad decks that have kind of incremental advantage that will build up.
So I'm going to add a quick note about Wausau. Nick is our Wausau representative. Sam is a little bit too in love with bad decks for this kind of tournament
These days.
these days. Like, I can't remember the last time I heard of Sam playing even like a reasonably competitive deck.
Yeah.
And Brad Eamon has been to, I think, like 5 tournaments ever. So while he is phenomenal, I think it's a stretch to call him a Thrones player.
Sure.
Which is fair.
Just, they're both phenomenal players. It's not a slight on either skill.
Yeah.
It's just, they're not exactly what this thing is about.
They both went to Stalek last year, and I developed Lenny Kraken with them, and we realized that this wins all of the time, just not in 55 minutes. And
I think I beat it actually, but
Yeah.
that's fine.
I couldn't get them off it because they loved it so much, and they ended up going 2-5, both of them.
Couldn't win in 55 minutes.
No.
Yeah.
Player 3 is CT Chris Thompson with a 69% win percentage. He played a
Nice.
lot of Martel. Yeah, thanks.
Still
He's
thought it was in here, so
famous for Martel Stag, and he used to play an awful lot of combo. And he is of the Mummers.
I think CT in many ways is the opposite of Jim and Nick, because he's probably the most Jamie or Spike, whatever nomenclature you want to use here, which is like he tends to play like the best deck that he views for that weekend. And what I think is actually really impressive about CT's nice win rate is CT goes to everything that he can. And he's not somebody who targets a few big tournaments or those kind of things, but CT is like going to all these Midwest tournaments, traveling to the West Coast, traveling to the East Coast. A little less this year, CT. All right, I'm not gonna give you all praise. Coming to the East Coast a little less this year. All right, and that makes him, to me, like whether or not he has as high a win rate as like Jim or another person that we're gonna get to on the list. Is one of the most consistent players on this list. Like CT is just definitely someone that you almost, if you're at event 9, we wouldn't say almost, you always see in the cut. Like you just are like, okay, CT does this tournament, the cut's going to be CT and 15 other people. Whether or not he'll go further than that, the heart of the cards, you got to believe in that. But he is going to be one of those people that's there, and his deck selection skills are extremely high. Like the thing that I think separates CT from the other two here is like, again, he's not an innovator, and that's not shade. Like at CT, it's more like he just picks what he thinks is going to be the deck for the weekend, and he plays it, and he plays it well. And his meta calls are almost always accurate. And other thing, I'll pass the mic in a second, is I admire CT's commitment to playing level 1 decks, which is like the best deck in the meta in that day, and not trying to next level people the way in which Jim would, or Nick would, or the Long Lances will, they're trying to sort of not play that amazing Greyjoy deck or that Landing Crossing deck because we hate those kind of decks. He's like, no, that gives me the highest EV. I'm going to play it.
Although notably, he did take some bullshit combo deck to Gen Con like an idiot.
Well, he did take I think most of the mummers did a free folk deck to the melee and won. So
Yeah,
Fair.
literally only because I wasn't there. I got too drunk the night before to play in Melee. I even can. Oh man, I'm so mad about that. That was gonna be my deck.
Yes, your version would have won the mirrors.
Yeah, I know.
All right. We ready for number 4?
Wait, I have something to say about CT.
Go for it.
I give CT a lot of shit because he is the type of player that is very consistently good, but sometimes it feels like he doesn't win as much as he should. Like, in terms of, I think, Roy, you said this about the heart of the cards. Like, sometimes you just get screwed. And I really have a lot of respect for him as a player. I know he thinks that I think that he's garbage. And as he's now my co-host, I think I can tell him that. But the
What? Spoilers.
oh shit, sorry, I forgot. Now that he's in this chat group, no. But I think that the thing that I really like, he's not only a good deck builder, or sorry, a good player. He is also a good like community organizer.
Absolutely.
I think I've been to a lot of his events, and I don't know. I think of all the people on this list, I can't think of anyone whose events I have been to more.
I mean, honest to goodness, he's the only tournament organizer on here except for Dustin, right? And back. But that,
Yeah, Dustin and
Can
back.
you stop shouting out the whole list,
Sorry.
dumbasses?
I apologize. So, like, I think CT and
horrible.
CT has made a name for himself as a tournament organizer in a way that I don't think those other two people that we did not mention are.
Well, we're gonna do Vac next because
There's a lot wrong by the way your description back here, so I get a lot of things to say about Vac.
Vac is a 64% win rate. By the numbers, he plays mostly Stark, but will play anything good. He is famous for being the best player in the Northeast. Period. And
Although-
he is of the Jersey meta, although
I got you,
rumor
Sam.
has it that he may be Storm Bros now.
So,
Go ahead.
so many things to say about Vac. So first off, Vac isn't even the best player in New Jersey because we decided at this past Lord of the Crossing who the best player in New Jersey would be, him or Mike Lamzik. And I'm looking at the results here, and I see Mike Lamzik finished 7th, and Vac 24th. Oof. So I'm just
I mean,
saying.
Whenever I go to
Uh,
Newark, I'm the best player in New Jersey. So,
All right, so I'm
the
just
bar's
saying
not
here
super
that
high.
Mike Lamzik is the best player in New Jersey now officially. That was what was decided at Lord of the Crossing 2. But honest to goodness, more seriousness. Vac is easily one of the best players in one of the most competitive metas in America. And he's had an amazing couple of years. Like, it's just amazing to sort of see Vac grow as a player, because I've interacted with Vac a lot since he started playing, and just sort of the ways in which he has honed himself into these into his strengths and playing to his strengths, which is his strengths are his ability to yes end a lot of the best decks. So he will play a good the best Greyjoy deck and some spicy tech. Like, he finds mirror breakers. He finds like ways to take that level 1 strategy and add a 0.5 that will give you an edge, a spicy edge in the mirror, and to sort of break through the ways in which metas can get very stale. And that's one of the things I've always really admired about Vac. In that Stark heavy meta that we had earlier in the year, he figured out this really cool Stark Assault list that kind of busted through the other Stark decks.
So,
Last summer, he was playing a Tyrell deck that was really strongly tech for the meta. When he won his first major event, he was playing a Greyjoy Dragon that kind of like pushed through that meta. Like, he's just very good at finding the stress points of a seemingly solved meta and pushing through it to just get the results that he needs. And I'm just really, that's one of the things I've always found really, really impressed about Vac. He's also just a sweetheart and a really great tournament organizer, and just a fun guy to have at your event. So just, he checks all the boxes. So as much as I'll give him shit for not being the best player in New Jersey now, officially decided, boom, the numbers are there. He is well deserved on this list. and it's just someone I like really admire for his clean play and strong deck building.
I just drove back from Lord of the Crossing with him a couple of days ago, but I think was his first major event that he won the Rockville Regional. Was that the one where he was a guest star on Missing the Cut on the drive home?
It was. That was the one he won. Yeah, that was his breakthrough event.
Yeah, so it's actually interesting you mentioned his technique of like playing the best deck with a little spice, because we talked about that on the inaugural Missing the Cut video. And it was basically, he said, he thought about why he makes cuts but doesn't win. And it was because he has his deck will play really well against the field, but on those individual matchups when everyone is teching for the best deck in the field, right? I think that strategy has led him to a lot of victories. So I agree with everything you said. He's also I've gotten rides from him a few times to New Jersey events. He's always there for a pillar of the community in the Northeast.
Yep,
great guy.
We would not have the Northeast Championship Tour without Vac. Alongside Lamzik, he and Mike are the two people who really make the spiritual home of Thrones in the Northeast so homey. So
eye rolls. All right.
You don't have to eye roll.
Next up, so homey. Then next up is Dark Nudge. Dark Nudge's win percentage is 65. He surprisingly has played mostly Terrell. He's famous for previously winning Gen Con. His name is at the bottom of Duel, and for building the Free Folk list. He is from Canada and builds basically every Lance's deck.
Yeah, he built the Targ Crossing that won me Marine as well, and a few others.
I mean, he's the sheer amount of decks he's responsible for is fairly insane. Partially possible for our old Night's Watch Reigns build, he built the very first, if you go way back far enough, Lannister Dragon.
He built the OG Lanny Dragon that we unleashed upon the world to defeat the Brotherhood, and then the Pandora's box of. We published that list, by the way.
Did we?
Yeah, we did.
And then Sean freaking Gen Con and got on this podcast so we could not show up tonight. Spirals.
But yeah, I mean, what can I not say about John? John is one of my mentors in the game. I love him like a brother. He is easily of the best aggro rush player that you'll ever play against. He sees lines in those. Yeah, no, Sandy. No.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing.
He will see lines that other people, and he'll think that matchups are just so easy. He'll be like, oh yeah, Greyjoy Dragon, 90% win rate against the field. And then you'll give it to another good player that you're playing with, and they'll go to a 45% win rate. And it's because John sees these plays and sees these outs in these aggro rush games. Even the mirrors that are just you're like, I don't know how the fuck you saw that. It's amazing, what John's able to see. And he is the person who has innovated, I think, every single Lance's deck that we have, except for the Tyrell Wars. That was not really John's baby, the way in which the Free Folk deck was.
That was freaking us messing with a Wama deck, right?
Yeah, we innovated a lot on that deck.
Yeah.
Anyway, but John is. I mean, the Free Folk deck that we crushed with at Gen Con this past year was him.
The Prince deck that won was him. Whatever.
So a bunch of decks. And John's, of course, influence goes all the way back to 1.0, where a bunch of decks that did well were for John innovations. So I think of this list, across the board, John might be the biggest bridge between deck building techniques in first edition and deck building techniques in second edition, except for a couple of people on the European list, maybe.
America, certainly.
But John is definitely, I think, worldwide in North America, John has the most influence as well.
Barnabas?
Is he the only one with the card design on this list?
I
but he definitely
do.
has a card design.
Well,
believe
other
so.
people do. A couple other people do, right? I don't want to spoil
I
anything.
mean, yeah. Well, at least
Well,
one of
one person
that was
on
published.
the list has 2. So
Really?
We'll get
yes.
Oh,
Number
that's
3
right.
on
Yeah.
number 5 on the European list.
Oh no, I'm talking about in North America. There's
Oh,
only
North
one other
America?
person in North America that has a card design that I'm aware of.
A current card design?
No, not
Yeah,
current.
there's one. Can we just chill and we'll discuss as we get there?
Sure, but yeah, I think John's pedigree is unimpeachable. He's been a very consistent player. I would. The thing I think that I love about John is he's also a Melee player, and if you ever watch him play Melee, it is totally believable that he's a winning poker player. I really.
Oh, yeah.
One day, my dream is to have Naj and the Wausau boys all play poker together, and then watch them get schooled by him. Like this is gonna be so, yeah. Anyway, yeah, I think I can't say enough good things about him. He's I visited him. Like, I mean, we've interacted for a while now. He used to have deck building things at his house in Canada. Yeah.
Those were fun. Back when
Yeah.
he lived in a part of Canada that people could visit.
Well.
All right. Ready for next? Buzz, anything to add? You've known Naj for an awful long time.
So I do have a story about Nudge.
There we go.
I started playing in end of the summer in 2013, and I ended up not getting to play because we all bought a box each. And I wanted to play Martell box. Okay, no, I can't play that because someone else bought it. I wanted to play Stark. No, someone else bought that. I ended up with Targ. And so I went on to Ago? No, Card Game DB actually, I believe, sadly. And there was this list, a cool dragon list, which just kept playing Balerion Black every turn. And I messaged him like, hey, do you have any tips how to play this deck? And I think I have the those times you can log into Card Game DB actually. I think I have that conversation still saved, and it is with Dark Nudge because he had won a regional with it. And
That's the season he won like 8 straight regionals. It was very stupid.
yeah, like, this guy seems good. I'll message him. So yeah, talked to him. That was my first interaction with the Thrones community. I do think he builds. His element is when he builds rush or aggro. Not very conservative decks. I believe.
Oh, greedy is the word you're looking for. Greedy as fuck.
Yeah.
They're so greedy.
Yeah.
And they've gotten greedier over second edition. Like it used to be Glazer played the greedy decks, and John would have to edit it down, and now it's the other way around.
Yeah.
So
I think like when you said you were bringing Free Folk to Gen Con, I was like, yeah, this is Dark Nudge. This is aggro. You put things on the board and you attack. Like the Dragons list that you brought at the end of first edition, also
Love that deck.
typical
Excuse
what
me.
I would expect.
That was
of
my deck.
John.
But
Okay.
fine.
Still,
John and
that's
Glazer.
a John deck. That is what I
Yeah,
expect
it's
him
his
to
style.
play. Yeah.
Who's next?
Next up, Mira Bird. 64 win percent, plays almost entirely Martell and Night's Watch. Famous. Oh, Alexa just decided to talk to me. Sorry. Famous for winning this most week. Okay. Famous for winning this year's Thrones War and a member of the Red Cloaks.
Is she a founding member of the Red Cloaks,
I
or
believe
was that
so.
Ibri?
She is the
I think-
founding member of the Cloaks of the People,
I think
yes.
Mira's had probably the best year of any of the people on this list. Maybe a person a little further down it could tie them.
Or 13 are my pick, but yeah, close.
Yeah, like up there, like she has been on a tear, and that's one of the things that I think is really impressive for me. with Mira, just the ways in which she has polished and upped her game consistently over the last year. Probably since she started taking off shortly before Gen Con last year, and then
Yeah, Kubla last year I think is when she started doing well.
she's the one that squeaked in right when into the Gen Con cut 2 years ago, right? When
Yep.
the infamous thing happened. So I guess it's really 2 years that she's been just like grinding away,
I have no idea
gaining
when
this.
this thing happened.
What?
I have no
Oh.
idea.
When Matt was late and the 17th player got in.
Rings got it. Rings bullshit.
And
Continue.
I remember this especially like, and I don't know if taking credit or blame, but I remember talking to her at Casablanca the night before and saying,
I remember this too. I was there. We were having, it was a 3-person conversation. I remember this conversation.
And it was like, oh, you should just just go, just in case something happens. You never know. And so she's like, okay, I'm gonna go home and sleep and get there in the morning.
She was just really happy that she made, honest to goodness, 17th in a very difficult field, and then she squeaked in because FFG in one of their more fucked Gen Cons that they did. And I think that just the growth arc that she has made over the course of her career since then is just really, really impressive. And in many ways, it mirrors like the kind of decks that she likes to play, which is this like incremental advantage that adds up to this like overwhelming tide of advantage and winning. Like I've just been really, really impressed with the ways in which Mira has grown, and she has become. I mean, I think she's got the most Jousting Pavilion points of any American right now.
I think it might be Alejandro. It's one of the two.
Yeah, she or Alejandro are up there, right? Like her Jousting Pavilion points is nuts, and I've just been incredibly impressed with that amount of growth. And I think that it's amount of growth into an extremely consistent player. And I was really proud of her when she won Thrones War. And I think that we're going to probably see her dominate the remainder of the year. We'll see how she goes at Thronstoberfest. So.
And UK War, actually.
And UK War. She's playing a UK War. I haven't been following it super closely.
That is interesting top 10 on Throne Studio that we're not going to go over in any detail right now on Jousting Pavilion. All right, next up, Colt Humbert. 66% of wins. 66%. Plays mostly Martell and Terrell. Famous for innovative decks. Second at Thronstoberfest and third at Gen Con. And from the Humbert meta.
Yeah, it is just the Humbert meta.
The Humbert meta. I mean, well, look, Mama Humbert, she knew that this game would exist and that she had to produce her own meta. Like, it's very important that you do that. Colt is, many ways, he's a lot like Jim, actually, is the person that I think on this list so far that we compare him the most to. I think that because he's also a big deck innovator. I think what's different about Colt versus Jim is Colt's more about finding level 2 strategies. Like Colt's really good at figuring out like what deck will beat the best decks. Like Jim is all about finding like what set of interactions do I like a lot, and am I gonna just maximize and turn into a cool deck. Colt to me is more like, okay, what do I fucking hate in the meta, and what do I want to beat, and I'm gonna build the best deck that can do that. And you see things like Jontron, the combo deck that he innovated that Sandy is playing all the time. Like,
hey, don't spoil my deck for Nats.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Sandy. And I think that that's what I like about Colt is that he is probably of these people on this list the best level 2 deck builder. And you can listen to my How in the Waiva videos to find out what I mean when I say level 2. But he's the kind of person who comes up with the decks that beat the best decks. And that's why I always find Colt lists, because I'm a level 2 kind of player myself. That's why whenever Colt publishes a list or I hear from my friends, hey, Colt has this spicy list, I'm like, ooh, give me that Colt goodness.
Colt flavor.
That Colt flavor. Like that's one of the things I love about him as a player, and besides being a really good dude. So
yeah, I also like Colt from Ohio. one of the other good players in Ohio after myself. No, I think the thing that strikes me about Cold is it's his decks seem to kind of like come out of nowhere. You don't really like. I think Jim is a much more systematic builder of like he pieces together these interactions and then you end up with a deck. And there's like a process you can kind of follow. Colt, I don't know how he starts deck building. I think he just kind of like they come to him in a dream and like he puts together some random cards and like, oh yeah, this is awesome. But yeah, that I think that level, your analysis is spot on. He's a level 2 player.
He's absolutely one of my favorite people to build decks with. He's a level 2 player who loves control.
And control's like almost textbook the most level 2 strategy, so it makes sense. Anyway, who's next?
Next is Mixie, new White Book host Robert Mixer. He has the highest winning percentage.
I think you mean the gem of the Gem City.
Sure. He has the highest winning percentage of a North American that I could find at 74%. He plays mostly Greyjoy. He is not super famous, but most well known for his consistency. And he is of the new build group, the Golden Company, which means that the Long Lances are going to pee on them.
That how it works.
I like
Do we
Rob
have
Mixer
to?
a lot. I mean, honest to goodness, Rob's probably of the people so far on the list I've had the least interactions with. I'm not on Team Golden Company on the White Book, so I haven't gotten to know Rob super well. But
Does he go by Rob or Bob?
Bob.
I thought he went by Bob.
Robert.
Yeah. Okay.
Bob, Robert. This shows
call
you how
him
well I
Mixie.
know him. But everything I know about Bob is
About
positive. What about Bob? Is that he is positive, great deck builder. That whole Golden Company meta that includes someone else on this list are just like really
You're
strong
learning.
players. And that's the most I can say about him. I'm sorry.
Wait, it includes someone else on this list?
I mean,
yeah.
literally the person next to
Literally
him on the
next
list.
person.
I just count them as one person.
Yeah.
No, I love Bob. I think I first met him at IO Worlds. I'm trying to think if I met him before that. I may have.
That's when I first met him, I think.
The IO Worlds that I won.
Yeah, I remember that IO Worlds.
Not
We
to-
drove down
not to
together,
update.
built your deck.
We built an amazing deck on the way.
I played and did poorly. Lost to Cal Vansel first round.
No, I think I don't. I actually don't know much about his playstyle, to be honest, or his deck building style. Just like him and the other person on this list, like I think they build together. I always see them discussing decks together, and they're not. I wouldn't say they're like off the wall like Colt's decks or Jim's decks, but they're often not straightforward level 1 decks either. I think. Yeah, I don't know how I would categorize him. I think that it's kind of a very hybrid strategy.
All right.
We can, yeah, that's all.
Next person is the other person of the Golden Company, Tyler Phillips, 68 win percent. Plays mostly Martell, so I already like him better than Mixer. And he's famous for winning, not this year, but last year's Gen Con.
Yeah, I mean, I mostly know as the person who failed to knock Tyler out of the cut at this past Gen Con. I did not believe in the heart of the cards, and it was actually a good matchup for my deck. So I think one of the more interesting things I think about Tyler is that just he had a fucking great breakout year, which was winning Gen Con and a fantastic showing for himself, but also for his team at Worlds that year, because they very much came from not a lot of people, particularly not a lot of people outside the Midwest, knew who his build group were. The Quincy Boys, as I've been told they prefer to be called, although they might
Not
go by the
anymore.
Golden Company now. But there's not. I know at least one member of the Golden Company does not live in Quincy. He lives in a mansion in Iowa.
What about the one in Missouri?
That's true, and the one in Missouri. But the Quincy Boys, who are that kernel of the Golden Company, are just like they had such a breakout year that was really impressive, and I think that they, what they showed about the last competitive season was their commitment to polishing and not giving up on a deck, even when it seemingly the meta had passed it over. But their commitment to refining that Martell Wars and sticking with it even outside of a format that seemingly was hostile to it. I mean, I remember us dismissing Martell Wars in our Worlds testing as sort of like played out now, thanks to the restricted list and thanks to where the meta was. But the Quincy boys proved us wrong at Worlds, and because they placed, I think, 2 of them in the second half of Worlds in day 2, which is a very good conversion rate for what was a small meta at the time. So I've just really been impressed with the ways in which Tyler had a really good breakout year and brought his friends along with him, which I think is also always really cool.
From what I understand, Mixie would be very insulted by that. They're very competitive, and he doesn't feel brought along at all.
Sure.
Continue.
Yeah, I don't have much to add to what Roy said. I enjoy hanging out with them. Much like, I think my interaction with almost everybody on this list has been hanging out after tournaments. I'm trying to think if there's someone that I like play with a lot versus drink with a lot, and I don't think that's.
There's
anybody
definitely
on this
one
list.
person on this list you don't drink with a lot because he doesn't drink.
Sure,
But
I have
Dark
drank
Notch, right?
next to him.
yeah, Dark Knight never drinks. All right, so next up is Andras.
Who's
Uh,
cheating because he's not actually an American.
Lives in America. We're going to count him. 66 win percent. Plays mostly Greyjoy. He has replaced Sandy as the world's best traveling player. He's famous for making cuts and not mixing them.
Yeah,
He is of the Storm Bros.
He's basically me if I was good. I think he went to Varberg. He was at Euros.
Did well at Euros. Knocked
He
out
did
Mandy.
well at Varberg too. Like, I mean, yeah, he's a really good player. He sees a lot of different tournaments. He's, I think, one of the most technically good players I've seen. He doesn't. I don't know about his deck building or innovation or anything like that. But when I've played against him, he doesn't make mistakes, and he's really good at kind of like seeing your lines and figuring out how to stop them.
Absolutely.
Which is, yeah.
Besides another person that we're going to get to on this list, I think he's the one that most has my number. Like, I have a 0%, below 0% win rate against Andras, and I played him a lot. He is very technically proficient. I think he is probably on this list the best mid-range player, although there's another person competing with him
very less
in a little bit. But here's the thing. Naj is not a mid-range player in the way in which I think Andras is. I think Andras plays the game as it is on the tin in a way that Dark Naj doesn't. Like, Dark Naj is all about finding aggro interactions that make it so your opponent doesn't play the game on the tin. Andras is all about, like, I'm going to play a bunch of 7-costers. I'm going to win 3 to 5 challenges a turn. I'm going to drown you in cards and incremental card and action advantage. That's the kind of playstyle. When the game... So the thing about Andras that separates him from the other people on the list is when the game is in a spot where that kind of playstyle is really strong, Andras is one of the top players in the world. And when it's not in a place that style of play is, he's still a great player, but he's not as high as some of the other people on this list. So that's where I sort of see Andras separating himself, is that he, honest to goodness, he is on this list. Maybe there's, again, one other person we'll get to, as the best, just straightforward on the tin. Like, if I was FFG and wanted to hire someone to just play Thrones to show like what the game's base interactions are, it would be Andras. Like, he knows how to play the game as Eric Lang designed it. As well as anyone on the American list here. But
as Nate French designed it. It's a different game.
French designed it. Okay. But I think when you broaden it out of there are other people who have other strengths. So that's sort of where I would put Andras here. But he's just such a fantastic player and a really nice guy. And Eurobra is, I think, what they call him in the Storm Bras.
Bra.
I don't know.
The Storm Bras.
Bras, whatever.
So Vac says he's one of the best deck builders that Vac knows, but since Vac is the only other deck builder he's ever met, I'm not sure how much that counts for. But
oh man, the The bras propaganda is in chat currently.
One of
So-
my favorite things to do, by the way, is Andras plays only under his own name most of the time, and he plays the same deck for like 2 weeks straight. So to just figure out what beats that deck and just play him with it to troll him is really fun. Just if anyone has free time.
Andres is great. Good dude, great player, the best mid-range player on this list.
Best traveling player on this list. Oh, by the way, just for the record, current hosts when I started making the list were not eligible for the list.
Yeah, I mean, I know that's why I'm not on it. Clearly,
I mean, the only one of us besides yourself that belongs on this list is Boz
Schoenthal has a real
and
thing.
Joenthal. Yeah, I meant what I was thinking about specifically the people who are right now this moment. So yeah.
So I mean, what's it?
I definitely don't
Should I go to
belong
one
on
of those? Should I go to one of those one day? All right, next up, Dustin Archer, a fellow losing record on Team Stark in the bad year. He's won a stupid 69% of his games. So imagine if he wasn't stuck with Stark that year. He plays mostly Stark and Greyjoy. He's famous for winning U.S. Nats 2 years ago or last year. Last year,
the
right?
last U.S. Nats.
Yeah,
I know. I commentated, so I
with Stark X, and he also is a Stormbra, and he is their Taskmaster.
he's. I think I won the one tournament I played in Texas that he ran. So
I love Dustin. He's a really good dude.
He's a very, very good person. I really enjoy him as well.
He is, of course, the face of the Stormbras. Compared to the rest of them are heels, but definitely Dustin is the face of that group of people.
Wait, did you just use wrestling terminology?
I did just use wrestling terms.
Holy shit.
I thought they would appreciate that, the Stormbras. Like they would appreciate that. But Dustin's a great rush player. I think that's sort of where his strengths are. Like, as someone who has actually watched a lot of Dustin's competitive games, largely thanks to the fact that he and Andras tore up U.S. Nationals last year, and I spent like 12 hours of my life commentating on their games because Will kept putting either it was like Andras, Dustin, Andras, Dustin, Dustin, Andras, Dustin, Dustin, Dustin. Oh, Dustin won. And I've watched a lot of his games. He's a clean player. And in many ways, I think he's in that Dark Notch school where he sort of sees where the plays are going to be for these kind of rush decks and can execute them in a way that lesser players can't. I think the only thing holding Dustin back on this list is that he just isn't able to, because he's in Texas. There aren't as many events down there, so Dustin has to like put the extra effort into travel, which I think sort of keeps him out a little bit of the limelight compared to some of the other players on this list. You know,
yeah.
but he is fantastic player, amazing rush player, incredibly good dude.
My second favorite librarian in Thrones.
Who's your first favorite librarian in Thrones?
Johnny Wright.
Oh, okay. I forgot that he's a librarian too. Like, I don't. Cool. Good choices.
Right? Yeah. Librarians are good folks.
Mostly.
Anything to add? I don't know any bad librarians, but anything to add, Sandy?
Nope. I love Dustin. I think I forget when I first met him. I think it might have been Thrones War. Was that when he was new to the game?
He was relatively new to the game then, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, he ran a tournament in Texas I went to. Stayed for the after party. It's a good time. He has good taste in beer. I mean, I don't know.
I mean, that's good.
those are my data points. Again, like Andras, I think he's a very technically good player. Don't know much about his deck building, but yeah. I'm kind of useless for this. Like, I don't know enough about the game. Sorry.
All right. Next up, a close friend of mine, Derek Shoemaker. 69% win rate, plays Stark whenever he can, but will play something else if we force him to. He's a former world champion, which I don't think many second edition players actually realize. And he's won 3 Northeast Championship Tour events this year. He is
including 2 back-to-back.
Yeah, well, and the one last week. And he is of the Pennsylvania meta.
He's of the Central Pennsylvania meta.
Sure. Like, I know the difference. He's to me the most machine-like player that I regularly watch play and play. He's just right play, right play, right play, right play, I won. Right play, right play, right play, right play, I won. He's intensely good.
I have heard that he occasionally doesn't know the rules regarding ambush and Winterfell, but otherwise I would agree.
Yeah, Derek, I think when I was talking earlier about Andras being one of the best mid-range players on this list, I think Derek falls under that as well. I think he is just a really strong playing the game out of the tin player of figuring out how to navigate. Yeah, she's saying she's going to bed. Playing the game out of the tin, figuring out the challenges phase, doing the challenges math, sequencing, doing all that kind of stuff. I love you. Kind of stuff in a way that, like, I watched Derek play a lot of games. Derek has kicked my ass. He's destroyed my dreams twice of winning a tournament where I felt really well positioned, and then I played against Derek and lost pretty horribly. So, and he's done the same thing to Sandy twice as well, I think. So he's definitely got our numbers. And I think that Derek, for a while, he was really underappreciated. I think he went really cheaply at Thrones Toberfest last year to Glazer, right? And then really cheaply to Martin and Jordan for this past Jesse's Name Day, or JND, which we're trying to cut Voldemort out, so JND. Too. And I don't think that's going to happen at Thrones Toberfest this year. So I think it's now officially out there that Derek is just one of the all-time greats in the game. I think besides Darknage, on this list for the Americans, he is up there as like one of the all-time great people to pick up Thrones cards across 2 editions. Like, I don't think many of the players on this list are amazing players, but I don't think that most of them reach Naj and Derek's level compared to like the Ryan Joneses and the John Brunos and the Alvaros, out there.
Well, let's find out in this tournament.
We will.
I'm actually really curious to see, and a little meta point. I think we're almost done with the American list, and I'd like we can finish this out. But I want to hear predictions for what kind of decks you think these people will bring, because I think there's some very interesting choices here.
Well, definitely Derek's bringing Stark.
Well, that's what brought it up. I was like, some of these are really easy to predict.
Sandy, if you want to make a little betting pool, we'll go over all that stuff at the end about like what we'd like from these players and how we'd like to run the tournament. But next up, number 13 of 16 from the North American list is someone who has never beaten me at a competitive Thrones game, Sean Emberley. He has won 71% of his games in second edition, which seems stupid. He plays Greyjoy unless we physically force him to play something else. He is the new Canadian national champion and was Gen Con's King of Swiss and won JND. His meta is the Lances. Yeah,
I mean, wasn't there to not say about the Lobster?
Top 4 at Thrones Toberfest, too. It's been a really good year.
This is to briefly bring you into the. I said on this show that Sean had a bad year. This was, I think, the 2016, 2017 year I was talking about, and then of course it's constantly being brought up that Sean is having a bad year because he isn't, right. I think he really started his tear at Thrones Toberfest last year with his top 4 finish, playing Greyjoy, and he's just like been probably the most consistent Lance since then, with a strong finish at Worlds, big finish at JND2, winner at JND2, placing the cut at Dance with Dragons, doing well in some small Canadian tournaments, including their nationals, King of Swiss at Gen Con, and he made it to the top 8, right, at Gen Con?
His only loss at all of Gen Con was to Struhal.
Yeah. So
Who
he's just been
needed
on a tear.
3
And I
birdie with it.
I think it's an extremely impressive commitment to Greyjoy. I mean, that's what it is. Sean's commitment to understanding the Greyjoy card pool and his willingness to commit to finding a variety of narrow interactions. If you ever talk to Sean about decks, I've talked to him a lot about Drown God and before that Greyjoy midrange. He knows those decks inside and out in a way that plebs like myself do not. And that I think is really one of the keys to his success. So it's sort of like Lobster's commitment to the decks that he wants to play is what's put him on this list.
It's because he doesn't have fingers. Sandy, you want to say anything nice about Lobster?
No, I'm good. No, I like Sean. I think he's. I actually went up to see him in Ottawa a while ago, and we talked about Thrones among other things. His approach to the game is really analytical. I think there's a couple of people you could say that about in this list, but he really strikes me as somebody who has a very clear view of not only the deck that he's playing, but like what every card is there for, what it's like, what situations he should be looking for what card. Like the analysis of alternatives when he's choosing like what to play or his lines, I think is very clear for him. And I think that's one of the reasons he does so well in Drown God. I think Drown God, there's a lot of choices that are not immediately obviously impactful, and he's able to see kind of clearly through that. I think if he has a weakness, it is the I think he doesn't deal with disruption to that super well. I think if you throw something unexpected into the thing, he ends up doing maybe slightly poorly. But yeah, great guy, great player.
Next
up, Stephen Ebrey, 64% win rate. Plays almost entirely Stark and Targ. He is famous for his consistency. He basically makes top cuts and goes far into those cuts everywhere all the goddamn time. And he is also a Red Cloak. He is their other sincerely competitive play.
Yep. I mean, what isn't there not to say about Ebrey? Like, he's an extremely nice guy. Probably one of the... I really like tournaments that Steve is at. I think he adds really well to the like culture of. He has the right mix of being very competitive when the games are being played and really chill when they're not. And not every Thrones player is good at that. Like, I'm not good at that. I can be very unchill when games are being played and too chill when or not chill enough when we're doing the socializing part. So like that's one of the things I really like about Ebrey. But he's also just a really fucking good player. And I think he is definitely a jack of all trades, master of none kind of player. I think of probably all these players that we've talked about so far, like I can't like point to Ebrey and be like, this is the style of play that I think Ebrey is really amazing at. But it's more like I think you can give Steve any deck and he'll do pretty well. He'll make a cut and he'll make a run for it. He may not make it all the way, but he'll make a run for it in a way that like a lot of the other players on this list can't do. They have their specialities, they have their prep that they need to do. Steve's the kind of guy like I envy this as that the Red Cloaks have this, that he's just like, okay, the deck for the weekend is this. You don't need a lot of practice. Go, Steve. We know we got some wins from you. In a way in which I think many other players on this list need more time investment to figure out where the meta is for their playstyle. Steve's just more like deck, go.
I love Stephen Ebrey. I think
I love losing bets to Stephen Ebrey.
I won
I like when you
bets.
win bets and he has to come to
yeah.
our
What are you
tournaments.
talking about? The thing I like most about Stephen, and again, it's kind of playing off what you said. I enjoy playing against him, but I think like I definitely have seen holes in his play, but I've also mostly seen him play decks that I also play, like Targ decks, where I know the lines maybe. But every time I see him, I end up having a great time. Like it's actually uncanny. I was thinking back to some of like my favorite memories on the West Coast, and like Ebrey has been there for all of them, and some of my favorite memories here.
Yeah, I mean, like Kim coming to Red Saturday last year was
Yeah.
like legit
A
one of
highlight.
the standout things. from
Yeah.
Saturday.
I think Mira's the
More
only
buzz
other
being there.
person where like consistently every time I see her, like we end up having a good time. So maybe it's the Red Cloaks. Is that maybe that's their secret?
Oh my god, can you guys please take Sandy?
Another win for the Red Cloaks. Or sorry, another win for the Lancers if I end up leaving.
All right. Who's next?
Next up is Arroyo. Mike Arroyo, not Aurora, is a 67% winner. He is a Greyjoy loyalist, super hardcore, which is weird because I think we have like 2 Greyjoy loyalists and 1 other like near Greyjoy loyalist. It's almost like they're good lately. He's famous for winning the first North American Championship Tour, and he is a
Championship Tour, championship at Red Saturday. Get it right.
cool.
He beat Buzz. All right.
Yeah, beating Buzz
Finals.
is never easy, and he is of the unless he's playing a shit deck, which happens. But he is of the Connecticut meta. Arroyo is great. He is literally the person who I have the most fun sitting at the table with in this game.
Agreed.
Every game, we're happy, we're laughing. Like, they're really, really, really fun games. I'm a big Arroyo fan.
What do you think, Buzz? You played against him for his big championship win.
He played Greyjoy Crossing, right?
Yeah.
I think it was, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
That's Buzz's commentary.
Yeah. No. I mean, I can't say much because I had that one interaction. He was on the world stream as well, right?
He was.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was he's kicked off the second day stream, yeah.
No, it seems good. I just can't. I don't know him, so I don't know. Sorry.
That's fine.
You're gonna have a
I'll
lot
say
to
tons
say
of things
for
about
them
Mike
next.
because I love him. He is also the only person so far on this list. Although I guess Ibri and I have played once, and I beat Steve, but that doesn't really count. But I have a positive win rate against Mike. So he's like one of the few top tier players in the world that I have a positive win rate against. So that's the things that I'll take. But he's amazing, dude. He's great at all the tournaments. He has a fantastic attitude. He's a grinder. That's one of the things I always admire. Like, he goes to almost, I think this season he's been to every Northeast Championship Tour event. He's just there. He goes. He plays. Yes, he plays the same kind of Greyjoy strategies, which
By
will
the way,
definitely is his
over there,
weakness.
Over there, according to Vac, he won with fealty, not crossing.
Right.
he won't feel
Yeah. That's true. Yeah. No, I remember.
And he's just a really good dude. And the thing that's crazy about Mike is that he has only been playing the game competitively for a year. His premier tournament was Winds of Winter, where he lost to me in the finals, and he ended that competitive season winning the Northeast Championship at Red Saturday. And that includes a top 16, no, higher than top 16. I think he beat Adrian, right? In his stream game. So his top 8, like, finish at Worlds? Like, that's a fucking crazy first year of your tournament life. Like, and he attended almost every event last year and every event this year, and he's done extremely well. He's made the cut at, I think, more than half of the Northeast Championship Tour events this year. With a top, losing to Derek in the finals this past year, and being the one who, in our Player of the Year race, is neck and neck with Derek for that Player of the Year race. So
Is Derek even catchable after winning 3 at this point?
as long as he doesn't punt at Bay of Crabs, nobody can overtake him. He has to get 3 wins, I think, and then nobody can overtake him. But
Okay. I mean, 3 wins.
but he can punt. You never know. Like any given Saturday, right?
I thought is he going to Bay of Crabs? I thought there was one he couldn't go to.
Yeah, it was Fields of Fire he couldn't go to.
Oh, so we were already past. Okay. We missed our window.
That's what gave Jaren and Mike the chance to overtake him, because they both did well in that tournament.
I will say, I think I've known Mike since he started playing Thrones. He was just on Missing the Cut. He's a regent. Or is he a regent or is he a hand?
He's a regent because he won Thronetoberfest last year.
Oh,
he was
yeah, I
the
guess
first
that-
announced regent. So
Right, that makes sense. He's driving with me to nationals. I mean, I have a ton of respect for him, but he's also like much like Stephen Ebrey. He's one of those people that you will always find at the life of the party. He's great to hang out with. Super fun. I mean, I guess he's good at Thrones too. I don't know. Sure.
Last person on the American list, Alejandro is the final member with a 69% win rate. He plays mostly famous for Targaryen, but plays a lot of everything. He is probably the most consistent player in North America, where like, unless something goes janky, it's really hard to imagine him missing a cut. And he is of the NorCal meta.
Yeah, when I think of competitive Thrones players, like if I was thinking of like what the platonic ideal of a competitive Thrones player would be, it's definitely Alejandro. Like he is the platonic form of one. Like because the way in which like he approaches the game and the way in which he is just like very just solid all around. It's weird to think that Alejandro is known for Targ. Like to me, I just think like Alejandro will be playing the deck of the moment, or maybe not the deck of the moment, but at least the faction of the moment, and he will try to find those edges in his own play and his own consistency and his own ability to sort of like see the outs. And I think that Alejandro, who revenged himself on me when I beat him at KuppleCon last year, and he smashed me in the face at JND2 this past year. I know. Is just very, very, very consistent. And it's just like this like very level kind of play that you just like Alejandro is very much again like it's hard to focus on like one specific thing that I admire so much about Alejandro. It's more like the whole package. It's like what kind of Thrones player do I want to be when I grow up? It would be Alejandro. Like he is just fantastic, well-rounded player, and he's a great player to end the North American list on because I think he has all of the different qualities. Maybe not all the different qualities in outrageous amounts. Like say you could say that like Jim or Colt are just outrageously good deck builders, or somebody like Derek is an outrageously amazing mid-range player. Alejandro doesn't have that outrageousness to him. He just is like level 9 across the board, or level 8 across the board, rather than like 10 in one area and 4 in another.
I would agree with that. I think it's very hard to find an area of the game where Alejandro is not better than most people. That's like, and I think I've played in a few tournaments with Alejandro. He came to Stalik with the SoCal group last year. And did pretty well there, I think. Both him and Ebrey played. I think Ebrey made top 8. I don't know how Alejandro finished, but it's again, like you said, it's hard to imagine he didn't make the cut, right? Like you just don't picture that. I don't have a lot to add, Roy. You did a very, I think, good breakdown of his play style or of his strengths. I do definitely silo him into Targ though. I think most of the time that I've seen him, he's been innovating Targ decks.
All right. And
Let me get a beer while you start talking about Europeans, Glazer.
That is our 16 Americans. What do you want to say?
I was going to say, like, I think, do you want to talk a little bit about the structure of the tournament, or what you're envisioning, and then we'll go to the Europeans?
Sure. Sort of what I'm looking at is it'll be a cut. So like you only play as long as you keep winning, right? It'll be a fully randomized bracket. Players will lock in decks in advance. They'll send it to an email address, and then we'll make a separate Thrones DB to make copies and keep stored those decks. And the games will all be, hopefully, assuming that we can manage the timing, recorded and uploaded onto, I believe, the White Book's YouTube, unless for some reason Will vetoes that. And we'll do commentary on the games. Commentary will be by Second Son's hosts, and participants of the tournament are more than welcome to join in commentary as well. Anyone else who's interested can just reach out. But the idea is to sort of create time.
We may not want to let participants commentate
Oh, yeah,
I
that
guess-
makes sense.
yeah.
Well, they can just watch it, right? Like whatever.
Yeah, that's true.
Um,
Are you
Oh.
gonna publish deck lists in advance or no?
no, after. Oh, you get what
Okay.
information you get from the deck list from if you want to scout, you can scout, I guess. Like a real tournament, right? The idea is to sort of like wherever the game may go from here, create a time capsule of the best Thrones players playing whatever deck they like best against each other, and then hopefully we can all like learn from them, enjoy it, and I don't know, crown a best player in North America, then Europe, and then hopefully the world. As just like a nice little like Second Son sponsored best player. TM.
Yeah, I mean, I think a couple of things that I find very interesting about this is we talked a little bit about players that are good technically, players that have deck types, players that are innovative. One of the things I'm looking forward to is seeing what decks people choose to play in this sort of environment. I think for some people it might be that they choose to play the decks that are most comfortable for them. I know we talked a couple of times about like level 2 players. I'm curious what they think will be a level 2 deck in this field, especially with your opponents, statistically like kind of what you're likely to see. Should be really good.
Yeah, but you won't know who you're gonna play, which I think is the cool part. So like you won't know who your opponent is, you're locking in the deck before the tournament, just like in real life. So like go have at it, right? Like you have to bring something that could be good against a wide variety of stuff. Unless you just expect everyone to bring Greyjoy Crossing, and then you can,
All
right.
Let's jump into it so we can get done before midnight.
Your
Probably.
sound is
someone
weird.
opened a stream.
My sound is weird.
No,
Now
someone
it's-
opened a stream. Oh no, it wasn't an echo. Never mind. Okay.
All right.
So let's
Yeah, it was
jump
just-
in and get done before midnight. So who's the first one on the list?
It's not gonna happen. But first person on the list
It
is
will happen
Nico.
because I'm going to work soon. So
Okay, so first person, and we will fly through these then. First
Yeah,
person
Buzz, you're gonna
is-
have to contribute to all of this.
Yes, we
Yeah.
told him that would be better. Shh. First person is Nico Neimer. He is 69 win percent. He most famously plays Lannister. He created the famous Landing Crossing, and he is a Italian national winner basically every goddamn year. He is the person I talk to in the game that most reminds me of Dark Nudge. He is just brilliant about the game. Very opinionated. I really enjoy him.
Niemer is it Italian for lion,
Sure. Oh.
or is it knight? I don't know. I thought it means something that was relevant. I looked it up once, but yeah.
Okay.
Ymir is a Norse mythology thing, at least for sure. At least in Swedish. So
Very useful to discuss this player.
just saying.
What else is there to say? I think you're right.
I don't know. He shares decks. That's cool of him. He's very, very active in the Lannister group on Facebook, which is nice.
All right. Speaking of people who are active in their group, next up is the aforementioned Hano. He has a quite stupid 75% win rate. He plays mostly Barra and Terrell, and he's famous for really interesting cohort decks and cool rush decks. Also, notably, which I didn't know until I was screwing around a couple of minutes ago, he's won 12 tournaments this year and been to like 24. So like every other tournament he goes to, he just wins, and then like 6 of the others are Lennart. It's just stupid.
I mean,
I don't know.
inarguable. These two players, I think, Niemer and Hano are. I mean, honestly, they're just the two best deck builders, in 2.0. They're certainly the most innovative. I think you really got to take them together, because I think that they shape the agenda. I think of people who are closely following the game, like Nico's list, that Landing Crossing list that sort of blew up. His various Niemer also has a bunch of busted cohort lists that like led to various combo decks that Sandy may
Yeah.
be playing. Like,
I mean, both.
and same like
both,
Hano polished Mace. Like Hano is the one who actually really showed that Mace decks can be busted. Like everybody knew, even as early as that first Stolic, that Mace is a good card. But like Hano, that HRD Bitterbridge, right? Is that the card?
Mhm.
Like
forgot
really
about
just
that.
broke open the Mace archetype, and then led to things like Wama's Euros winning deck, our Gen Con deck. Like there was a variety of different like things that came from like Hano showing that card is not just a good card, but a busted card. And I think that that's the kind of thing that you can expect from these two guys. And I think you really got to view them as a unit if you're looking at their influence on the game as a whole.
Well said. I will say personally, I'm very happy to have drafted Hano. He. I drafted him before he won German Nats and before he was King of Swiss at Euros. Just
yeah. We no one knew before then. It was like, who's Hano? What?
well, but both Hano and Niemer have given me tips on my combo list. So, like, I have a soft spot in my heart for people that helped me tune that deck.
I wonder if Hano will be playing combo at UK War, but we should probably
do
move
you
on.
wonder that? Really?
Every day it keeps me up at night.
Number 3. Sorry, Buzz. Anything you want to say about Hano?
I haven't interacted with him a whole lot, but he was in the what's it, Champions of Westeros, I think, and busting people with the HRD deck, and was super nice, super enthusiastic about like, streaming the games and stuff. And now we've been talking about decks since then, basically. So,
Nice.
super nice guy.
All right. We went from Italy to Germany. Now we're going to the Dutch, and we have Wilco. He's a 69% win rate. He plays mostly Lannister, which really makes that win rate impressive. Plays a bit of everything, though. He won this year's Stolic with a really, really interesting start line.
Yeah, I haven't been traveling for at least not much for 3 years. So all of these new players, I'm like, who's this? And then they go and win Stolic all the time. So I don't know.
Yes.
So there are 2 other Dutch players on the list, and when I mentioned this to both of them, they're like, "Why are you asking me and not Wilco? He's better." It's like, relax. I'm asking Wilco too.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to hanging out with him more. I don't actually know him that well. Of all the Dutch players, I think I know him probably the least well.
I really, really, really like the Dutch meta. They've always been really good to us.
I mean, I think they've they were part of our infamous trip to London.
Yeah, and they were there with us in Poland.
Yep.
Yeah. Right, number 4, trying to fly so that Buzz doesn't cut off the stream, is Argento. Yannick, I believe, LeBlanc.
Yep.
He is the completely absurd 78% win with mostly Night's Watch, which I did not expect, and he is most notable for completely owning France.
Yeah,
I didn't realize they had a monarchy again, but apparently they do.
his signature deck is the Super Stewards that he published a long time ago, and he's been pulling. He always comes back to it.
He's the first one who. It was the Rat Cook deck, right?
Yep.
He was the first one to have a competitive Rat Cook, right?
I didn't know that. I know him for the World X and mainly the Super Stewards reigns. Yeah.
Yeah, that Reigns deck is real good. Anything to add about Argento?
I mean, I just know his published list well. Yep, I mean he's fantastic.
He's
Nice watch player.
Super nice, decent at English. met him a number of times in France. Yeah, he's super nice.
Next up, former world champion Reinhardt, 70% win rate, plays almost entirely Targaryen. He's famous for winning. I believe he won Euros as well as Worlds, which is
In
just
the same
The same
year.
year.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Like-
it's
just
crazy.
all sorts
With
of
the
stuff.
same deck.
Yes, he's quite good at the runes. You can catch him online as Ryan
He's
playing
what?
all the goddamn time.
Top 16 at Worlds this past year.
Yeah.
So like
And top 8 or so at Stalin. He's just
Yeah.
very, very, very good.
Reinhardt is a beast.
I play him a fair amount online because he's on so much, and it's always really
On
fun
a
and
player
intense.
level, I think he's number 1 on this list.
I think
Ugh.
usually when
Ugh.
whatever.
I think
Usually when they
Leonard
publish stats from the Iron Throne,
Mhm.
he is in the top 5 every time on games played. He plays all of the time.
Alright. Next up is Marty Faz Hernandez, Heron. Notably, his name is at the bottom of the reader. I believe he is our first European with a card design. He has won 72%.
Well, no, we just went over one who has 2.
Yeah, but he haven't. We don't have.
Well, that's true. We don't know what his cards are.
Like Heron has. Oh, I guess he didn't get one because he won Stalik twice. He didn't get a card design for the second. 72% win rate, and he plays almost entirely Greyjoy. He's a loyalist, and I believe he's the only person to ever have won Stalik twice.
Does he play Greyjoy in second edition? He did for sure in first edition.
Not as exclusively.
Yeah, because
But
I
still
know him
look-
as a
still-
Tyrell.
Well, what did he
loyalist
win his second
now.
edition? His second edition with because
Tyrell.
he won once in
Tyrell.
first edition, once in second, right?
Yeah, Tyrell Reigns. Yeah,
Tyrell, right? Yeah, he won. Okay, yeah.
and I think he'd been bringing Tyrell last few years for Starlink. But his design is a Greyjoy card for a reason. So
Yeah.
A good Greyjoy card.
yeah,
An
Also-
okay Greyjoy. A great Greyjoy card in first. Just an okay one in second.
It was a great Greyjoy card for a long time
yeah, for sure.
until it got
Yeah.
Yeah. Power creeped out. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's also part of my early Thrones community people. So my first international tournament was Blackwater 2014, I believe.
Where he knocked me out of the cut.
Yeah. And
Wow.
I knocked him out of the cut, and afterwards he stood up and said, "This is the best Thrones I've ever seen." And then people explained to me who he was, and I was like, "Whoa!" And that felt really, really, really good.
Your first international tournament was the same as Aaron's first international tournament? That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I lost, I think it's a long time ago, but I'm pretty sure I lost 2 games. One to Heron's friend who was playing his deck, and then one to Heron. And I was like, great, thanks.
I got destroyed by Jakob round 1, and I just was demoralized and started drinking.
I really, really, really wanted to play Jakob. I felt like I had a really good match against him, but it just didn't happen.
Yeah, he barely lost a game all that year with the same deck he has played. That
Yeah.
was insane.
Grand Theft location.
Yeah.
Florian, by the way, speaking of players who would be on the list if they played more, Florian is not on the list because he goes to like 2 tournaments every 5 years, but Florian is phenomenal. You can see his name at the bottom of cohort.
it's true. Florian's probably one of the GOAT players. Maybe that's a future episode we can talk about.
Next up is my pick for, my and a few others pick for the best, because didn't make this list alone, for the single best player in the world. He has not committed to being in yet, so let's hope he does. He is the current world champ, Lennart. 77% win rate. Anything above 75 is just completely goddamn absurd. So 77% win rate, plays mostly Martell, and he's famous for winning worlds this year. He is a ridiculously clean player.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's a great.
Leonard, my one story about Leonard is playing Melee with him and him being annoyed that people were letting me win with my Night's Watch deck until he saw it in action. And then he immediately took it and adapted it for his own use in Melee. So that actually, I think, says a lot about the character. Like, he doesn't necessarily, like, when he sees a good idea like that, he'll just, not saying that Night's Watch in Melee is a great idea, but I think it took him a little bit of data and he immediately turned around on it. It was kind of amusing to watch.
All right.
Right.
I
Next
mean,
up,
like Leonard doesn't need an introduction. Like he's the world champion. You can buy his deck as of right now.
yeah,
You can buy his deck, which is not legal anymore.
not even close. Very, very legal. Like 5 restricted cards. Next up will be a good friend of mine, someone I know Sandy's close to too, someone who does not believe he belongs on this list because he was real surprised. Donovan Van Beek.
Well, I mean,
60
you
60
don't even say anything.
Yeah.
He has an agenda.
Yeah.
It's called The Wars to Come.
Yeah.
It's busted. It's currently restricted. It's probably the most busted agenda in second edition. There you go, Don. Like,
Yeah,
65% win rate, plays mostly Martel. He won Stalik in first edition with, I want to say, Barra.
Yes.
was that the
Yeah.
last Stalik of first
Yep.
edition?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He saw LaPlante's deck
Yeah.
from Varberg on the
Yeah.
Varberg stream, took it, and won against LaPlante in the final of Stalik.
And that was the year LaPlante made the final. LaPlante would be another all-time, if we did this for all-time. He would be on the list. LaPlante made the finals at Worlds and Stalik, right?
Did he make the
Yeah.
finals at Worlds? I thought he was.
Was he at Worlds that
I
year? Was
believe-
that was at Worlds that year?
I
Because that was
believe
Worlds
so.
the year
2021
before.
Buzz, was that?
I believe he is who Alvaro beat in the finals, is he not?
No.
Worlds? No,
No,
it was
that
in
was
America.
At the quarterfinals, no, he beat
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
No,
he came second in a bunch of tournaments that year.
Yeah, he was the
Including
original
Stalik.
second place French.
Yeah.
That was the year I was at Stalik. Yeah, that was the first year I was at Stalik. Yeah. I mean, Donovan is great. I can say a Roy thing. Donovan is one of the few players on this list that I have a winning record against. I beat him at Stalik with the Targ deck that Nash built for me.
So the year that he won was one of the most impressive things I've ever seen. Because at Blackwater that July, he was brand goddamn new.
Yeah.
Like a total, terrible noob. He barely knew what anything did. And then, with sheer good and great play, went and won Stalik in his first.
I think it's another it's another testament to the Dutch meta at the time and now, I guess, in that they took a new player. I mean, obviously Donovan is great, but they gave him the resource, to be really.
Yeah, I mean, Don was one of those European gods when I was coming up in first edition, that people would talk about in hushed tones. So I always have a huge admiration for him because I think he won the Stalik right when I started playing. Right, that would have been 20
because it was the first Stalik I went to, which is right after I moved to New York. Yeah,
2015. So when I was really getting into the game competitively and starting to follow it, we're 2014 then, right? 2014. Because it was the same year that.
Whatever. Don't worry about the year. Move on.
Anyway, sorry.
I actually think he's super overrated.
Ooh, Buzz throwing shade. We've been very positive
I
so
think
far.
he wouldn't be on the list if it wasn't Americans making the list. So you consulted people. You consulted people.
So just for the record, for the European list, I had much more of a say on the American list. So if you're very angry as an American, you can get mad at me. Although I did talk to other people. For the Europeans, I basically went to 5 or 6 of the top European players I know that I talk to reasonably regularly, and I just had them list everyone that they could think of that might be, and then I let them vote, and all I did was take the people with the most votes.
Sure, they're wrong.
So, okay, fair enough.
Just
I think
helping
that,
out Nodge here. He also wanted to throw shade on people.
All right. So number 9 is the player I want to be when I grow up.
Of
It
course.
is
Yeah.
Alex Trigg.
Oh, Trig.
64% win rate, plays mostly Martell, and famous for being probably the most innovative control player in the history of the game.
God, fucking Bloodthirst. Fuck that deck.
He's
mean,
he's unreal with everything.
Viserys combo.
Oh yeah. Oh,
So he's, like, full disclosure, someone that I didn't even really realize played enough anymore to be on the list. And like every top player was just like, yeah, that guy needs to be here. He's just so goddamn good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Leonard is the new Trig, right?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah,
Is
That's
Leonard
true.
as like cutting edge?
he's not
as Trig
he's not
was
as creative as Trig
at his
was.
peak?
Sure, but
Yeah,
I think
but I think-
Leonard is more tight in the play and likes to play better decks. Like Trig
That's
will
fair.
Trig will play his super control deck in a meta that's not made for it at all.
Yeah, it's just what he
Very
likes.
fair.
Yeah,
But he's still a beast.
sure.
Yeah, I
Anything
mean, I have
about
nothing but
Trig?
admiration for Trig. I mean, my favorite Trig story is I've never met him because I don't think he's ever come over to the U.S. But we vaguely heard in my first Gen Con testing weekend that Trig had this new Viserys combo deck at the end of first
Oh,
edition.
that was his. I forgot about that.
And a bunch of drunk people got together and like reverse engineered from just like 4 cards that someone had seen on
Yeah.
Octagon against Trig and reverse engineered it. And people were just like in hushed tones, well, if Trig is playing it on Octagon, it must be good. And kind of thing. And it was just a moment. Like that's how much power like the name Trig had in first edition. And he built did he come in second or something in first edition at one of the big Spanish tournaments?
Yeah,
Yes,
Right?
the
The
first
first deck or
Battaglia.
something?
He
my
lost.
first European tournament actually was at Battaglia, and he lost to, was it a Bloodthirst Mirror? He lost to
No,
Heron, but
no,
I forget what it
no,
was.
He lost to the very first Old Way deck.
Oh,
No,
that's what
I'm
it
not even talking
was.
about first edition. I'm talking about in second edition. Didn't he go to one of the big Spanish tournaments early on
Yes,
and
he
lose to
also
Ryan
did.
Wood, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That was,
was Ryan Wood's hot year.
that was also Battaglia.
Well,
But,
second.
He invented Bloodthirst at the same tournament. That I actually don't think it was Heron. I think it was I can't think of his name. Rab's buddy, Chefo, invented Old Way. Whatever.
right.
Old
Yeah, you
memories.
might be right. I that was a long time ago. But yeah, I love Trig. He's somebody I always enjoy talking to about the game, which is rare for me. The other, I think I have a lot of stories about him, but I don't know if any of them are really Thrones related.
But why don't we move on to the next person then?
Yeah.
Next up is
Franke.
Franke, the nicest man in Thrones.
I
Everyone
really
loves
like
him.
Frank. I met him at Worlds past year.
Se-
Good dude.
70% win rate. Plays mostly Terrell, but will really play anything. He is super consistent and rises to the top of cuts all the time. He's a really, really good dude. I really enjoy him, and he's
I mean,
kind
that's
of
my main interaction with Frank was just he was a really good dude at Worlds and a lot of fun at Worlds. I sat and watched him play that French drinking game.
Savez-vous.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I believe he is the newest player on the list as well.
Really? No,
No?
I don't think so.
Someone
Right.
told me he was relatively new, but I could be wrong. You would know better than I.
Isn't
I don't know,
Vilko
he's-
a lot newer?
Yeah, I
Oh,
thought
that's
Vilko
true.
was definitely.
That's true. I forgot.
But
how
he's
many
part of the
people-
Dutch meta. Another Dutchie.
He's our
um,
third Dutchie.
Good dude.
Mhm.
All right, we're gonna go
All
into
right,
the
let's-
tank.
let's-
'Cause I have
let's
a
move
big
it.
tank for the next person.
Next up is 68% win. Plays mostly Terrell. Wins everything in the UK, even when Euros are there. It's friend of the show, Mama.
Can you really call
That's-
Wama a friend of Second Sons? But
I mean, friend of the White Book.
he's definitely a friend of the White Book. It's like really, really hard for me to like hold in my praise and love for Wama. Like James is amazing. we've been like, he was one of the first like non-American Thrones personalities to take me under his wing, and arguing about collusion and scouting and team play and all these sort of things that we would argue about in card game DB threads when I first kind of started playing. But the fact that Wama has built a career in second edition as probably all around probably the most respected player in the world, I think is a fair thing to describe Wama. Yeah. At this point, I think he is very popular in the Anglosphere, but I think the Europeans obviously respect him as well. Kassi's a good dude. The thing about James is you can disagree with him, but he's willing to debate you in a way that makes you feel like, even if he thinks that your opinion is incredibly wrong and stupid, he will make you feel like it's good that you held a belief.
That's just British politeness.
It's British polite. Well, not all Brits are polite because argue with
Bamford
Bamford sometime, and then you'll feel a different opinion of Britishness.
All of the other Brits will tell you you're shit in a really nice way.
Yes, but Wama doesn't do that, and just James hit the amazing tear he's been on throughout second edition. But we all have to remember, like, Wama's first major event in second edition was him playing a really terrible Tyrell Sun deck at Gen Con, which we all told him he should not do. I tested him and I was beating him. Let's remember this: if Roy Rogers is beating James Wamsley in testing, that means there's something wrong with your deck. But he still did it, and he went 1-6 or something, 1-5 at Gen Con. Yeah, something like that. No, he didn't drop. It's Wama. He didn't drop.
I thought he won 2.
Maybe he won 2, so maybe it was 2-5 or 2-4 or something. But he just flailed out miserably. I had a better record than he did at that Gen Con. From those humble beginnings of Wama in second edition, he has since become probably the most respected player in the world.
We came back to New York and had Hot Pot. It was great.
Yeah. I really fucking enjoyed Keb, and Wama and I got really drunk.
I loved Keb.
Nice. Yeah,
was Wama the first non-North American to come to Red Saturday?
He might have been, yeah.
No, because the year before Wama did. What's his name? He's on Banter. I can't think of his name.
No, he didn't go to Red Saturday. He went to the regional.
Okay.
Tony.
Yeah,
Tony, his wife. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Tony and Helen.
Yeah, they went to the regional.
Tony was fucking great.
Yeah,
I talk to Tony much anymore, or at all anymore.
I love Tony. So.
Wama is we talk about who we want to be when we grow up. Wama is who I want to be when I grow up as a Thrones player. As much as I hate that Stark deck,
just play straight up mid range. That doesn't sound like you.
He's but he makes it work, right? It's not. Yeah. I can't say enough good things about him, so we'll just move on.
All right, yeah, because I has to go to work in 3 minutes. Next up is the Lord Commander, Tomas. 71% wins of almost all Night's Watch. He rocks at this game.
I mean,
and having a Night's Watch player or a couple Night's Watch players in the European part of the field is going to make things very interesting.
Yeah. I mean, Tomas's great strength and his great weakness, right, on this list is that he's the best one-dimensional player probably on both lists.
Yeah.
Because there's some really good mid-range players, but they can play across a couple of other factions. But Tomas is just ridiculous win rate with Night's Watch, and ridiculous. It's not ridiculous win rate with well-accepted Night's Watch builds.
It's always hybrid.
Defense, pure defense, Tomas style mid-range defense, right? He has an archetype that's entirely Tomas. That's the thing you have to understand about him. And it is that. That's the thing. I really admire, as someone who's a hardcore Night's Watch player, I love the defense. I love the D. But Tomas is just above and beyond everyone else in the Night's Watch world. Anyone who's a semi-serious Night's Watch player has to take what Tomas is doing seriously, even if it doesn't work for you. And you can learn things from the way he plays and the way in which he builds.
He also had a good year a few years ago, I think, when he was really the only Night's Watch. I think, was that pre-builders that he was winning everything?
Pre-builders and through builders. Like
He-
Wama and Florian and I were working on builders like while Tomas was on his tear.
Yeah. He plays Night's Watch and wins with Night's Watch and despises builders. I love him. So
All right.
Dude.
Next up, a person that Buzz assures me will be in, promises me even. Jakob Holtman, 69% win rate, plays a bit of everything. Won the last 1.0 Worlds, came in, I think, like second at something major really recently. He's just kind of a beast at cards.
Buzz.
His name is also on, I think, 2 cards?
yep.
One of
What are
which
they?
these play.
Yeah. King in the North and Beric, right?
Yeah.
Well, Barracks he's playing now.
Yeah, a little bit.
Does?
Was he in
Does
Hano's
he?
deck?
Yeah, he
Was
was
he
in
in
Hano's
Hano's
deck.
deck?
He loves it. Of course he puts it in the deck. It's not there because it's good.
Anyway, Buzz, tell us all about Jakob. This is your
Oh
moment.
my god. I don't have time.
Oh my.
No, it's great. So we have completely ditched Game of Thrones and actively play Arkham Horror all the time. So that's where you can find us now.
Well, you promised he's it, so he better be in. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
he'll be in for sure. I mean, he still likes the game. We don't have anyone to play with really, and nobody pulling the meta in Stockholm. But he is quite different from all the other players, I believe, that we've mentioned. He's not very good out of the box. He needs a lot of reps. He needs to come back and think about it. Maybe a week later, he'll make a change, and he works on a deck very hard for a long time, and then what was I going to say? He has after he has polished it, he still puts in more reps and more reps and more reps, and it becomes second nature. Everything. Just watching him play, his hand movements are super precise. It's really peculiar, but he's just a machine when he has gotten that time, and he puts in that time every year before Stalek. So, yeah, so good.
My favorite Jakob story, besides meeting him at Worlds, and he's just a good dude. But my favorite Jakob story as a player is Jakob on his way back from Worlds 20. What year did he win, Buzz? 2015? He came by U.S. It came by New York on his way back for one of our like starter tournaments.
Yeah, I don't remember.
And he played this terrible Tyrell deck. It was poorly built, and he lost, I think, every game he played. But every game he lost was extremely close. And like every play he made, you were like, oh, that is like, you would look at his hand and be like, wow, this is one of the most garbage decks that I've ever seen in this core set. But he would play the deck to its greatest potential. I'd be like, oh, wow, he used these garbage cards in this like really interesting way to like win this challenge he shouldn't have won. He still lost the game horribly, like 3-15. But he was like doing these amazing plays, and his opponents were just running him over. That's Jakob to me. Like where Jakob has a base level of skill that that is just like above and beyond us mortals. That is just always stuck with me. That like that moment of like sitting there and like watching him, because I was TOing that event and not able to play, and just watching him and just being like, what the fuck? Like this deck is fucking terrible, but this player is really good. Was just one of the most disparate experiences. I think sums up kind of Jakob in pretty well.
All right. Let's move on because we're running short on time. Next is Fabiano Campolucci. He is our second Italian on the list, 69% win, close to my heart with mostly Martel, and he is remarkably consistent.
I think that's the guy who kept me out of the cut with the combo at last Euros.
Which combo?
Ladies.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Rip.
I remember the post about it.
Okay. Anything else to add
Nope.
about Fabiano?
No, I don't know who he is. I just recognize the name and like, oh yeah, I played him.
Barnabas?
I don't know him either.
Really?
So
Okay.
Yeah, no.
Oh,
Yeah.
the others voted for him, so top players apparently do. Next up, Andre Patup, which I'm sure I said wrong. 68 win percent, plays mostly Stark, but honestly a lot of everything. He makes every goddamn cut. He was second at Fracas and King of Swiss at Euros.
Yeah. I've never talked to him at all, except this February when I heard he had a good Targ deck and asked him to join our Discord to share it and talk about it. And he shared it, and a certain Jon Bruno, I think he went undefeated.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's all I know about Andre. He had a really good Tar crossing that Bruno crushed with.
Anyone else? Andre thoughts?
I
Particularly
don't know
Sandy.
Andre very well, besides seeing him
yeah,
I think-
at the top of
I saw
things
him
in
at-
Jousting Pavilion. So
I think I met him at Fracas, maybe. I don't know.
We met him at
But-
Fracas.
I
was
don't.
very
Yeah, that's the problem with me and Europeans. I only mostly see them
well,
drunk.
the problem with me and Europeans is if you don't go to Worlds, I sadly don't get an opportunity to meet you. So,
Until
we go to
next year.
until next year when Alan and I go to Varberg. So
Last on the list, Ryan Wood, 71 win percent, plays mostly Terrell, and he
He
is
should
very
be on the
consistent.
American list, first of all.
Because of Boston. But
Yeah,
could
he
trade
learned to
him.
play in
exchange
Boston.
Andras
We could trade him
and
for
Ryan Wood.
Andras. I don't really care, but I love Ryan Wood. Ryan Wood's such a good guy. We used to play all the time in first edition.
Yeah, I
because-
remember. He's the other person I have a winning record against, I think.
Yeah, I think I might too, because first edition I was actually good.
Hashtag Sandy things.
Yeah.
Winning your records against Europeans as an American.
It was in Boston. I've only beaten him in Boston.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he went back to England and became fucking phenomenal. There was that
I
one
just-
year where he won or came in second to every goddamn tournament.
It was
But-
really funny to watch. Go ahead.
No, I'm just gonna his year was the Joe Mirando year though, and he punted at that Worlds
I mean,
and
it happens.
wasn't able to slay the Mirando menace. So for that, I'll never forgive Ryan.
But, I remember you said something, Aaron, which was like, yeah, he played in Boston, like learning from the Fitches and Talia and the other great players there, and then
Right.
went to England and just like tore up all of the whole English
Yeah.
meta.
It wasn't just the English meta; he also tore up the Spanish meta, right? Because did he
Spanish,
win
yeah, he won
Italia? Yeah.
with Tyrell Reigns, I think. Or
I mean,
Crossing.
literally that year, he felt unstoppable, right? Like he tore through British tournaments, but he just failed. When society demanded that Ryan would step up and defeat Joe Mirando, he failed to do it. So did Sid, our very own beloved Lucas Sidlaski. So he's not alone, but.
Yeah.
And that is the top 16 Americans, or North Americans, excuse me, and the top 16 Europeans as far as various votes and talking to a lot of top players and our own opinions can tell. So we'll be setting up this tournament, and I think the easiest way to do it is our next episode will be in 2 weeks on Tuesday. Anyone know what date that is?
That is, it will be the 10th.
Okay, so Tuesday the 10th will be when we announce, I guess, the start of the tournament, assuming we can get everyone's decks in and stuff. Sound good? Like we'll
Works for
announce
you,
all the
Glazer.
matchups there. If everyone's okay with that, that seems to make sense to me. All right, post-show ramble, Rogers?
Real quick, do we have any announcements? I just want to double check. For those of you who survived to the end of the show, please sign up for Thronestoberfest. Go to redcapcorner.com and find Thronestoberfest there. Buy tickets. Come get an awesome gritty plot. Get an awesome Kill in the Kingswood plot. Yeah, you should sign up.
Killing the Kingswood? What?
Oh,
Not a
the
plot.
Clash of the King. The Clash of Kings is from our event, Kill in the Kingswood.
Okay, I was gonna
We're
say like
recycling it. Apologies, I'm tired and drunk, so had a long day at work, so I've been self-medicating. I I can't think of any other major announcements, particularly now that we said that our next
Well-
episode will be on the.
September 10th.
Yep.
So
you just said.
we have
September
one
10th,
big event between now and then.
Well, U.S. Nats.
Nationals.
Also,
that's what
Wait,
Hey, Thrones
I have an
right?
announcement. I have an announcement.
no, it's the 12th. or...
Wait,
12.
we'd
So
like-
that week, okay.
Hey, I have an announcement. We'd like to do this tournament again next year, but if we do, what is that background noise? If we do it again next year, we'd like it to be people who won stuff this year. So Axel, if he's willing, if you're listening, Axel, if you're willing, would be the first person entered into next year for the European side, and the winner of U.S. Nationals would be the first person entered into the American.
Shouldn't it be the North America? Shouldn't it be Gen Con?
It should be, but Luch doesn't want to do it.
Oh, okay.
So
What about the winner of
wins,
Canadian Nationals?
23 people tournaments don't count, and he gets to be in this one already, so it's fine.
Okay. I was gonna say, Roy, Thrones Fest draft.
Oh, yeah, Thrones Fest draft, which is going to be Sunday, September 8th. Date
Yep.
GBA. We're finalizing it, but we should have a big announcement this week for that. Yeah,
I'll be in sunny Philadelphia.
it's true.
Uh-huh.
I might be really hungover doing commentary with Sid. Second Son's own Sid will be doing commentary. So we're bringing Sid back for that piece of content. So it'll be exciting.
I'll be drafting people.
You will be. We have a great group of regents. I'm really excited. So please sign up for Thronestoberfest.
Yeah, if you want to meet some of the regents, I've done interviews with a few of them on Missing the Cut. It's super relevant because we talk about what their favorite karaoke song is and whether they will have a team drink or not. So
And
those
it
are
is,
that's what you look for in a regent.
it is. Good regents do those things. Bad regents don't. So
All right, great.
cut the stream, Buzz.